As much as I wanted to do another quick how-to video on installing this exhaust, it is not something that can be done quickly. The kit did not come with any instructions, so I had to deal with each problem as they arise. And so what I have is just sort of a collection of details and information about the total install and what I did to get it to work. It's difficult, but it can be done. The first big thing with this exhaust setup is it did not come with any sort of mounting support brackets or hangers, other than obviously the header bolts and those bolting into the engine. What I mean is, like if on the stock exhaust over here, it has this mounting bracket which bolts into your frame, whereas this exhaust does not. There was nothing in this vicinity where I'd have liked it to utilize that same mounting bracket. Perhaps they thought that with whatever mufflers you select, that the hangers and whatever device you come up with to hang them from the back part of your motorcycle would suffice, but I don't like that idea. So I went ahead and devised a third mounting bracket, which does utilize that original mount point for the catalytic converter. I just have it welded here to the pipe and have it clear coated so it doesn't rust. So in other words, what I'm saying is, unless you're a welder and you have all the tools to weld, you're gonna pretty much have to take this to a muffler shop. What you're looking at here is 3 different purchases, and really it's 2, but it's 3. If you buy the exhaust kit, what it does come with is this pipe, all the pipes you see in here, and these clip springs. Some of them do come with mufflers, but you can select your own mufflers. Obviously, it's 51 millimeters on both sides, and you can go for carbon fiber or titanium you want. I went with stainless steel. Without the mufflers, everything that came in the Undertail exhaust kit ended up weighing 6 pounds, 9.5 ounces, and that's if you use everything that it came with. So I ended up not using any of the springs or clamps that came with the kit, so that ends up saving you a little bit of weight. And this was also a tricky part toward the back here. If you haven't already, you should definitely do an integrated tail light, because you're gonna pretty much have to make your own license plate bracket if you're gonna be using a license plate with this. The way that we did that was we literally just welded. You see the weld marks right there. Come on. Yeah, we welded a piece of steel from this steel part of the bike underneath the tail, which is this piece right here, onto just a simple piece of other steel that was from the original license plate bracket. I have it held on by zip ties, and you have your license plate right there. You want to, when you're doing all this, adjust it so that it's straight and everything. Alright, so here at the headers, we come to the first problem. And that was that it was too adjustable. Like, if you wanted it to fit the way that it showed in the picture, what they should have done was welded the flanges of this thing onto the pipe exactly the way it should have fitted, but they didn't. So you could twist these left or right, and you could twist the pipes left or right, which ended up working for me, but it's not exactly how I'd have liked it aligned. And the reason I couldn't align it the way I wanted to at first was because of what was here, which was called the coal canister. I've heard it called other things, but I've always called them coal canisters. Basically, it's an emissions thing. Instead of gas evaporating straight up into the air, it evaporates into this, whatever. The reason I think this wasn't a problem when they did this installation in China and put those pictures on eBay is because they don't have these. This is like unique to our emissions, I guess, and it's going to be different based on whatever region you're in. If you have one of these, you're gonna want to remove it. Basically, I mean, you're doing the full exhaust anyway. You're de-emissioning the bike, so it's held here through these 2 bolt holes. Also, removing the coal canister saves you a significant amount of weight. I mean, That's at least a pound right there, and then all the bolts and hoses and screws that held it in place. You're talking a couple pounds there in weight savings. If you do not remove the coal canister and you try to install its exhaust, you're going to run into problems in the back because it's not going to make the clearance that it needs. Really, you want the exhaust pipes to be as much this way as possible. Now, I got mine as much that way as possible without removing the coal canister, and then I had it welded, and then I removed the coal canister, realized that I could remove it. So had I removed the coal canister earlier, I'd have moved these pipes even more this way, and you'll see why when we get towards the other side. Torque specs. The torque specs on the header bolts are 16 foot-pounds. You want to make sure you don't tighten one all the way without tightening the other an equivalent amount. In other words, you want them to be even when you're tightening them, so you don't like crimp one side and not the other. Anyway, I definitely reused my gaskets for the headers here. If you look at your header gaskets and they're all torn up and cracked, then you probably should replace them. But I've heard from multiple people that they'll reuse them over and over again, and they still work fine. And mine are definitely not leaking, so it's not a problem. When I routed the exhaust out this way, as well as when I took the old exhaust off, I did not take any of these fairings off. I just took this bolt off, and I think I loosened this one up here, but I didn't take them off, mainly because I couldn't. But if you can't, this just goes to show that you can do it without taking any of these off. So the next thing was the O2 sensor, which I had no problems with, except that it came in contact with this fairing here. Now, I don't know if you can see it. You see that black right there? The fairing came into contact with the pipe because I couldn't get the pipe on the headers to go more towards the left side of the bike as much as I could. This probably won't be a problem if you remove your coal canister first before you get all this set in stone. It probably wouldn't melt part of this plastic on there. Now, I've already, gotten used to this by taking this bolt out and cutting the bottom of this plastic fairing off to give the clearance necessary so it doesn't melt any more plastic on there. But that's just a heads up, so when you do this installation, if you do it, it's not as rough as mine is. Here was the biggest problem, which was your rear set for your rear brake. I use my rear brake all the time, so I definitely needed every component of it to work. Because I couldn't get the headers to be as far to the left of the bike as I could, this pipe right here sticks out this way. Not terribly too much, but it's there. You can see the clearance issues I had. The critical part here was moving like this brake bracket and the brake light switch and the reservoir out of the way of this pipe, because originally all that was like right here and there was no way it was ever going to fit. As you can see, the angle that these pipes are coming up above the tires is not ideal. Had I been able to, again, move that exhaust closer to the left side of the bike, inevitably that would have resulted in these pipes being aimed a little higher over here. But as is, it ended up working because they were somewhat adjustable right where I had them welded onto my mufflers. As is, I haven't had any sort of clearance issues. Gone over some pretty nasty speed bumps to test this out, and no matter what I can do, I cannot get the tire to rub my pipes. So clearance is okay, even if you only manage to get the pipes as I had here. But then also to get your mufflers to be straight and to have adequate support, I did end up using the brackets for them. However, the brackets obviously were not going to just bolt right up to the R3. So what we had to do was start with putting down a bolt here and here, one for each muffler. Let me see if I can get this. Alright. And that bolt, we ended up just bending a piece of steel, which is the same kind of steel we used for this. I don't know what kind of steel it is, just we had some steel lying around. I think they use it for some sort of component on like muscle car suspensions. Anyway, and we made these little contraptions here on both sides, and it gives it enough adjustability to make the mufflers straight as we could. I don't know if the camera's getting this, but I got them pretty damn straight. they're still adjustable, so if they come out of sync, I can just go back and twist them. Now, after I got the exhaust installed, I went ahead and had the ECU flashed. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for maximum power and better highway fuel economy. It probably is going to end up hurting your city fuel economy. I'm getting like 5 worse combined because I don't do a lot of highway. But it's totally worth it. I mean, the feeling that you get, you can pull like 6th gear doing 35, 45 miles an hour. Whereas before you'd have to, like be in 4th or 5th just to be able to idle in that, or but maintain that speed. So it ends up giving you a lot more low end torque if you remap the ECU after doing an exhaust system. But anyway, here's how it sounds. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, just comment below and I'll help you the best I can.